What is up, everyone? Welcome to the Football Chatbox. My name is Ryan, and welcome to the Game Week 8 Wildcard video, where we're going to be looking at some of the players that you can have on a wildcard draft if you are playing a wildcard. And if you're not playing a wildcard, maybe it's good to watch as well, just to see where some wildcard drafts could be and where you should probably have your team around in terms of what players to target for the upcoming game weeks as well. If you are new, make sure to hit that subscribe button, hit the like button as well, and let's get straight into the video. All right, so wildcard draft in game week 8 is a bit more of a, you kind of have to go where you feel like it kind of draft. Like, there are quite a few more options than there were in game week 6 and game week 7. And when I mean options, I mean in terms of like 50-50 decisions that you kind of have to decide on. Now, as you can see, I've built a rough draft based on what I had from my game week 6 wildcard, altered it to some of the players that I would like to have. As you can see, I'm kind of short on cash, so that obviously this draft doesn't really work. There are a few differences that you might have to potentially work around. Depends on your budget as well. So in this video, we're mostly going to be looking at players, and then you kind of have to make a decision in terms of fitting it according to your team value as well. But first, we'll look at obviously a fixture ticker. Now, if you're wildcarding now, you ideally want it to last we're looking at the fixture ticker until game week 15, because after game week 15 we'll be getting 5 free transfers additionally from the AFCON transfers, and you can treat those 5 free transfers either as a mini wildcard or even like to carry on for the next couple game weeks, but you have to use all your free transfers by then. So that's why we're focusing at the moment as like a short sprint in terms of fixtures. So if you saw this is on the Fantasy Football Scout members area. Brighton are top of the ticker for the next couple of fixtures. Now, Brighton obviously have a slightly harder fixture against Newcastle this week, but then after that they have Man United, Leeds, Crystal Palace, Brentford, Forest, Aston Villa, West Ham. So you probably would want maybe one Brighton player if you really wanted to, or you could still kind of avoid and maybe get them in game week 10 when they have the fixture against Leeds as well. That's up to you in terms of if you wanted to get a Brighton player. Arsenal are the team that we will be talking about a lot as well, because they are second on this ticker. If you were to extend this to 16 as well, they go to like first on the ticker as well. So they are up here. Liverpool are third on this with Man United, Brentford, Aston Villa, City, the only tough game in that run, and then Forest, West Ham, Sunderland, and Leeds. And funnily enough, you might see a lot of drafts from wildcard, even in game week 8's wildcard, where people might not have Liverpool players. And I don't necessarily think that's a bad idea, because even the draft I've made, I don't really have any Liverpool players. I think that comes mainly down to we are kind of uncertain still on what Liverpool players that we really want in our draft. So you guys have to take a bit of a punt on some of these Liverpool players. This is where the 50-50 decision I mentioned earlier comes up as well. Wolves, even though they're fourth on this, not looking good, you probably want to avoid. Crystal Palace, they have Bournemouth and Arsenal. Crystal Palace are a team mostly that from game week 10 onwards are a really good investment. But if you're wildcarding now, it would be wise to have some Palace players in your draft as well. And then obviously the other teams that are on this list, Chelsea and Newcastle, are the other two teams we'll want to have in our teams as well going forward. So those are some of the teams that we're going to target and look at in terms of building a wildcard. Those are the teams that we're going to mainly focus on. And a few things that would change is also if you have a bench boost. Now, for those of the managers who wildcarded in game week 6, one of the favorable bench boost was game week 8, where we loaded up on the likes of Sunderland, Burnley, and Leeds, who have some decent fixtures this week, and we're going to most likely be bench boosting for those who wildcarded in game week 6. Part of the ideas was bench boosting in game week 8 as an option as well. Now, for those who are wildcarding in game week 8, I mean, game week 9 is still not a bad bench boost for a Leeds against West Ham. You have Burnley playing against Wolves in game week 9. Still not too bad. It just depends on like the other couple of players also who you have. You might, if you're looking to build a bench boost team, I would say first look at focusing on a good 11 and decent rotation. And I would say bench boost whenever you feel like your team is good for that week, where you can't decide on which players you want to bench and which players you want to start, kind of thing. Then bench boost in that specific week, because there might be a few, like, it's very hard to exactly tell a standout bench boost week. I mean, there might be a few here, but it kind of depends on your budget as well. I wouldn't want to be putting too much budget in my bench as well, just for the sake of the bench boost chip, if that makes sense. If you've played it already, then you don't have to worry about that chip at all, anyways, to be honest. Now, let's talk about wildcard options, starting with the goalkeepers. I think Nick Pope uh, is one of the best options on the Game Week 8 wildcard alongside Dubravka. Dubravka is your standard second choice keeper playing every week. I think everyone just no questions about it because he's going to play 4 million cheap. Pope is one option of a goalkeeper. Your other option for a goalkeeper, obviously the slightly higher spectrum, is David Raya. Which is why I showed the fixture ticker earlier, because Arsenal are up there. Although I think that's too expensive personally for a goalkeeper, that I would like to achieve more than 6 points ideally. Nick Pope could do that with bonus points and all. Newcastle aren't really free flowing in attack, whereas Arsenal, on the other hand, if they're free flowing in attack, tend to get a bit more in terms of bonus points spread across their attackers, or even if they keep pretty good clean sheets and a low scoring game, generally their defenders tend to get more of the bonus points than David Raya. The only time David Raya tends to get bonus points is like whenever it's like he's had to make a lot of saves and they've kept a low scoring game and won the game or something like that. That's kind of where he's won the bonus points. So I feel like Pope is a good option. I still think Petrovic is not too bad of a second choice option in terms of Bournemouth. The only thing with Bournemouth to add now is if you look at the ticker, Crystal Palace, Forest, Man City, Aston Villa in the next 4 don't really scream clean sheets. That's why I would probably go for Nick Pope instead. Would I go for? I mean, Henderson is also not too bad from Crystal Palace if you wanted to go Henderson. Just that keep in mind the next two aren't that great, but then after that it's pretty good. So I would say Henderson from Crystal Palace is also not a bad goalkeeper option, depending on your budget. Like now, as you can see, I'm 0.5 short. I could have probably easily gone Henderson here. Oh no, I can't. He's just a 5 million. So I probably would have had to go on Petrovic, or I would have had to like reduce the cash from somewhere else. So Pope, Henderson, and I think Petrovic are some of the goalkeepers to look at as well. Defense. Now, defense, we're going to kind of keep it simple. We're going to be looking at DEFCON defenders. This is again from Fantasy Football Scout members area. If I was to sort these by points per start, Gabriel, Senesi, Guehi are some of the top 3 defenders that stand out right now so far based on their amount of points they've received per start. The Newcastle defenders appear as well. Dan Burn, Botman, some of the players that you might be looking at as well. Guardiola is there in City defense. Although City defense, I don't really still fully trust them. And I look at Everton, Aston Villa, Bournemouth, and Liverpool, and I think those teams can still find a way to score against City and Newcastle as well. So I don't see too many clean sheets. Maybe like game week 13 onwards is probably where I would, if I was looking to invest probably on City defense then. I don't know. I just don't feel confident on City defense. But Guardiola is up there as well. And then you have Aldrete, Chalabah, Shah, and Mukiele as some of the defender options. And then you obviously get like the remaining Crystal Palace defenders appear, like Lacroix, Munoz, Tyrick Mitchell. Keane is there from Everton. Tarkowski, I think, is slightly low as well. You have most of the Crystal Palace defenders up here. So, defense. We've got Guehi, Senesi, Gabriel. I've gone for Anderson from Fulham and Roden from Leeds. Roden purely DEFCON, and I feel like Leeds at home are a decent team against any opponent, and he could, whenever needed, could probably be useful for fixtures to get you some DEFCON points. Anderson is just, again, DEFCON, purely DEFCON, and the thing is, Game Week 8 and 9 are not that great, but then after that, it's not too bad. Wolves, Everton, Sunderland, Spurs, City, you don't play him. Palace, so you probably don't. But then again, it's Burnley, Forest, West Ham. I mean, it's a decent run of fixtures put in with a few tough fixtures on the go as well. So, like, whenever you need him, he's just like, he's pure DEFCON monster, Anderson. So, you can kind of guarantee to get, look at this. He's got 12 points in terms of DEFCON alongside Senesi and Tarkowski. Those are like your DEFCON monsters that you kind of want, which is why we've got Anderson in there as well. Now, Guehi is one of the Palace defensive options. You can go Richards, you can go Lacroix. I don't think there is really a wrong answer between the 3 centre halves. Picking one of them is fine. You could go Munoz or Tyrick Mitchell, but I would prefer the centre halves instead because their chances of getting DEFCON are way more higher than the fullbacks at the moment. Even though the fullbacks are attacking, their returns aren't as consistent at the moment, and you want to increase the flow from your defenders, which is why we're going for the centre halves. If Munoz tends to get more attacking returns like he did last week, then he gets into the picture and then becomes a conversation. I still think fullbacks with good attacking returns can provide something. Someone else that I haven't mentioned here, and I think I should, if you were to look at a very short game exercise, we mentioned West Ham, Brentford, Leeds, Newcastle, and Burnley. And I would mention Diouf, who is, I think, 4.4 right now. Yes, Diouf, 4.4. One of the most attacking fullbacks in the league in terms of returns so far. Good set of fixtures upcoming. Short-term punt, but definitely worth considering. Wan-Bissaka also might not be too bad. He's just back as well after, I think, injury, so he might also not be a bad option, to be honest, and he's at 4.3. So if you're looking for even cheaper options, consider the West Ham defenders as well. Now, alongside defense, something that I said when I was talking about 50-50 is deciding, let's say, for example, between obviously the double Bournemouth, Vincenzi and Petrovic, deciding also whether you wanted to go, let's say, double Arsenal defense, for example, and not double Arsenal attack. Let's say instead of Gyökeres, you went Gabriel and Timber. That is also a possibility, to be honest. And I wouldn't put anyone against it as well, because Arsenal are projected to keep one of the highest clean sheets for the next couple of game weeks. So double defense from Arsenal is also not a bad shout that you can consider as well. So Timber and Gabriel is one other option as well, which obviously you will have to kind of work through. Now, like as you see, I'm short on cash. I could do go Bowen, for example, here. Can I go Timber? Ooh, 5.4. I can't really. So someone else might be able to. You could probably go. I could do potentially. Can I do Guehi to Timber as well? No, I don't have enough cash. So again, depends on the cash and how much you have. I could probably move Paqueta to a Drewsbury Hall. Right, free up a bit more of that cash, then I could easily do even Anderson to a Timber, for example, something like this, and I get 4 really good solid defenders. That's another alternative in terms of how you could approach this. So that's defense. Some of the players that have been mentioned, consider them because they are definitely worth considering in terms of options. Again, double defense versus double attack, you kind of have to pick a side, and based on that, the rest of your draft will start forming. And also, if you have bench boost, then obviously that changes things as well, because then you still want playable players on the bench compared to if you have already played the bench boost, then you can go for the extremely cheap budget options that no longer play at 4.3 and all, who have fallen in price. Those players you can go for as well. For example, I think Foster from the forward line is not Foster. Who's the forward line that is pretty cheap? So if I was to go 4.5 is your cheapest, right? If I was to put this at 4.4, here appear a few. You have Chido Obi at 4.3, Mark Gu at 4.3. Now you probably don't go Gu because you might want Chelsea options elsewhere, but these guys have fallen in price, and if you don't have a bench boost to worry about, you can kind of consider them, right? That's something else to mention. Let's go into midfield now. Midfield, I've got Enzo, Saka, Semenyo, Sarr, and Drewsbury Hall was here. Again, this could change. Again, this is one of those 50-50s depending on how you approach it. I had Paqueta in here as well before. I would also potentially mention Caicedo is definitely worth a shout. Declan Rice is worth a shout. Let's go team by team, I would say. So Brighton, let's start with Brighton. I think Brighton, if you were to get a Brighton player, it would probably be in midfield and nowhere else from Brighton. I don't think you go and get any of the defenders just yet. And I don't think you probably go for their forward as well, because we don't really know in terms of minutes reliability. In terms of in terms of midfielders, 2 that stand out, Minte and Mitoma. I think those are the more reliable options at the moment. Those are the 2 I would look at if you were to get a Brighton player. That's the only 2 probably Brighton players that I would consider at the moment, at least. Arsenal, there are quite a few. Now, Saka is one of the midfield options. Eze is another one. Declan Rice is also a definitely consideration, because he will, for cheaper Arsenal alternative, he will tick along nicely as well, with obviously Odegaard injured as well. Declan Rice will play most of the games on a lot of set pieces as well, to be honest, Declan Rice. So he's a nice budget option for the Arsenal attack. So Eze, Saka, Declan Rice, some of the Arsenal options. Liverpool, This is where it gets hard because we don't know. The uncertainty around Liverpool's attack is why you don't see too many Liverpool players in drafts, because we still don't know what Liverpool's ideal attack in front three or front four is going to look like. We kind of have an idea going. Isak is probably going to start. Salah is probably going to start, but they're all very expensive, and they're not performing just yet to justify their price tags as well. So you could still go with like a Salah draft. You could have Salah in this team. Then you obviously have to adjust according to your budget. But Salah is definitely a possibility. I won't rule him out because the fixtures are there, and I can't. He's done it every year, right? You can't really rule him out. It's just that this year they have too many cooks, and the points are being spread across quite a lot more this season so far. Or at least it looks like it. And also there's a lot of uncertainty in terms of a proper structure up front. So until they kind of set that, it might be United might be the game where they actually like get on a run, to be honest. So we'll have to wait and see. But Liverpool definitely, I think it's a wait and watch before maybe punting on it. I think it's okay to be late to that party than going early, punting on a very expensive option and it doesn't work out, and then you pick the wrong one and you should restructure your entire squad just to get the correct one as well, to be honest. Wolves were avoiding because even though they're up there, form-wise, nothing's really looking that great. Palace. Now, Ismail Saab we've got in terms of midfielders. I probably wouldn't really go any other midfielders. Forwards, maybe Mateta we can speak about. Chelsea, I mentioned Enzo and Caicedo. Newcastle, Anthony Gordon is another option if you wanted to. If you had the budget to go to Anthony Gordon, he's also not too bad. I can't do it on this one, but like if you change the defenders around and reduce the cash from defense, maybe instead of Ismail Sarr, you could have Anthony Gordon. That's also not a bad shout. West Ham, Paqueta, I mentioned earlier. And then the rest of the teams, I wouldn't really. I guess City, Reinders. Reinders has a big question mark on what to do with Reinders because he's getting you minutes, but he's not getting consistent returns. So that is the only thing that's annoying with Reinders. And he doesn't get consistent DEFCON as well. Whereas if you have Everton, you have Endai, Drewsbury Hall, and Jack Grealish, who are getting a bit more in terms of consistent returns. And the likes of Endai also generally can get you DEFCON and bonus points as well. So they are a slightly more attractive option right now than a Reinders if I was to wildcard. Although if I was to wildcard, I probably wouldn't have either, to be honest. Just because Everton's fixtures are a bit more harder in the next two. So I would try and kind of avoid. For those of us who wildcarded earlier, I mean, it's still okay to keep them because Sunderland is not too bad. Fulham is not too bad. To be honest, Spurs is also not too bad from an attacking point of view. United also not too bad for Everton from an attacking point of view. Bournemouth, Semenyo is on fire. Until he's like, as long as he's on this purple patch of form, you kind of have to keep him. Spurs, I only think Kudus is someone worth mentioning. That's basically it. Man United, they're at the bottom at the moment, but I wouldn't really go and invest there. Maybe when the fixtures kind of improve from like game week 10 slightly, or even 9 is not too bad onwards. Like there are attacking fixtures, it's Brian and Bremer, but they're not clicking enough. So hold with United. I think Brian and Bremer might be the one. They're still up there in the attacking charts. Like the amount of chances they create, they're up there. It's just that they're underperforming their expected goals at the moment. So those are some of the attackers to kind of keep an eye out for. I kind of mentioned a lot, but those are some of the, from those teams, I thought I'd mention some of the players that you can look at. But I think I like these four alongside like Gordon as well. And then again, depends on whether this goes to the double Arsenal attack. You can go double Arsenal attack in midfield as well and not get Gyökeres up front. So again, that's a decision you have to make. Forward line. Now, the forward line is where it's a bit weak at the moment. Haaland is definitely, you want him. It just depends on who you get alongside Haaland. Now, I've got Jared Bowen in here. And I've got Jared Bowen for like the punt of, again, like I mentioned, West Ham's fixtures getting better. Brentford, Leeds, Newcastle, Burnley. That's not too bad. I have Joe Pedro in here, even though he hasn't returned recently. Chelsea's fixtures are still good. And because Chelsea's fixtures until like game week 12, even like 14, Chelsea's fixtures are actually pretty good. Except for the Arsenal game, the rest are actually pretty good. Now, at the same time, if other forwards start slowly performing and putting their hands up in terms of a bit more better returns, Joe Pedro is not going to last long. So I'm willing to give Joe Pedro a bit more room and relaxation until like game week 9. I'll give him the next 2 weeks to see how he does. but I don't mind having him on a wildcard draft. And at least, like, if he does do well in these next two, then at least you have him and you don't have to spend a transfer to get him in. Otherwise, it's an easy move out to obviously a Mateta. Like I said, Palace's fixtures improve in game week 10. Mateta is an option in game week 10. There are also, like I said, if United improve or manage to take over, Sesko, if he's continuing to get a few goals here and there, he could become an option as well. Walter Marder is another forward option that is kind of ticking at the moment. West Ham in game week 10, not too bad. Brentford in 11. City slightly the harder one, but then 13 and 14 is not too bad as well. And then 15, you have Newcastle. So he's also not a bad option in terms of a forward. And then there's obviously Victor Gyökeres as well. So Haaland, Bowen, Haaland definitely. So then your options are between Bowen, Joe Pedro, Walter Marder, Victor Gyökeres, and maybe Sesko. Are there other forwards? Thiago from Brentford could be a slightly budgeter option. And then obviously Mateta from game week 10. The only thing I'm concerned with Mateta is with European football, there'll be a bit more rotation between Mateta and Nketiah in terms of minutes management. And that's the only thing that kind of puts me off Mateta as an issue, as a forward option. And then there's the punt on Liverpool in terms of Isak. Do you punt on Isak? Again, I think it's probably worth waiting and seeing who exactly we want to go on. But it's up to you if you want to take the plunge and go. If you have the budget to go Isak, then maybe you can try it out. And that would require you getting a much more cheaper forward. Like if I was to, instead of going Bowen, I went Isak here, I need to downgrade Joe Pedro and probably another striker somewhere around this. Like it's probably another defender also potentially has to be downgraded as well, to be honest. You probably can't have Timber. You'll have to downgrade Timber to someone slightly more cheaper. And then Joe Pedro goes to like a 5.5, 5.6. And then this is where we enter the conversations of Calvert-Lewins. And then I'm like, I really can't suggest Calvert-Lewin, guys. I honestly can't suggest Calvert-Lewin. I'd rather you go Thiago at 6.1 than Calvert-Lewin, to be honest. I just don't trust his fitness. So just because of his fitness, I can't suggest it. It's just I just don't trust his fitness. I would rather you go Foster, to be honest. But he's at the moment flagged. So yeah, I can't really trust Calvert-Lewin. I'd rather you guys go Thiago if you wanted an absolute budget striker. Thiago, most likely. So yeah, that's kind of where like the wildcard sits. Plenty of like decisions that you kind of have to make. But those are the players that I mentioned that maybe consider. Must-haves, I think Haaland definitely. An Arsenal defender or two. Arsenal defender, I would go. I think Semenyo at the moment on his form is probably a must-have, I would say. It's like he's just on really good form. It's not worth not having him. I would add a Crystal Palace defender. Depends on who you want to go and get. So Crystal Palace defender, Arsenal defender, Semenyo, Haaland. Dubravka is going to be in there anyways. Senesi for Defcon, I think, is worth it, to be honest. He's just too good. And Bournemouth as a team are playing really well. So, like a Bournemouth, Senesi, Crystal Palace defender, one Arsenal defender, a Newcastle defender, whether that's Nick Pope or Dan Burn, up to you in terms of how you go about it. But probably a Newcastle defender because of the fixtures. Their defense is also not too bad. If I was to sort this by team defense, they are the second best defense in the league at the moment. Again, Bournemouth are up there as well. City are there, but I don't know. I just feel like City are the team that will concede that one goal, and even though they haven't considered too much XG, that's the thing. So those are your must-haves. Your midfield, Semenyo is the only one I would say at this moment is a must-have. Everyone else is up for discussion. There is no set player. Everyone else is definitely up for discussion in terms of who you can go and get. Now, I do have a wildcard draft that was shared with me from Nehal, which we didn't really see in the team selection stream, but I'll bring it up to you guys now. And this is one Game Week 8 wildcard draft that he is looking at. If I can boost this a bit more. Here we go. So we have Pope, Dubravka, Timber, Gabriel, Senesi, Diouf, Roden, Saka, Semenyo, Enzo, Sa, Stark, Joe Pedro, Haaland, and Bowen. So it's gone for Stark as the cheap budget option instead of Shrewsbury Hall. That's also not too bad. Depends again if you're bench boosting like next week even. Stark is not too bad for next week. Like I said, Leeds fixture next week is not too bad for a bench boost. Again, if you have the bench boost, up to you in terms of how you play it. So that's one bench boost option. He's gone Joe Pedro, Haaland, and Jared Bowen to take. He's basically gone double West Ham to take an opportunity on their current fixture turn. And then there's another one that instead of Diouf has this, which you can see is Pope, Dubravka, Timber, Gabriel, Senesi, Anderson instead of like a Diouf, Roden, Saka, Semenyo, Enzo, Sa, Ndai. Ndai is there, which is a nice differential if you want. Fixtures are here and there, but it's not too bad because, again, like I said, Pens, Defcon, occasional bonus points, and then Joe Pedro, Haaland. He's got Calvert-Lewin. I would try to avoid if possible, but if he's playing bench boost next week, 1 week, and then don't have to worry about Calvert-Lewin after. He might only get you 2 points, but you probably don't really care about him after that, I guess. So yeah, again, depends on how you want to approach this. And like, because his defense is a bit more expensive in Timber and Gabriel and Saka, and he's got like a decent forward line as well. So again, price ranges you need to kind of consider as well. He doesn't really have a cheap midfielder in here. That's why the Calvert-Lewin spot is a bit more cheaper. So those are 2 drafts as well that I received that I showed you guys as well. Let me know in the comments if you've reached up to this point. Thank you for watching. Make sure to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button as well. And I'll be live tomorrow for the deadline stream 2 hours before the deadline. So make sure to join me and get involved. And I'll see you all later.